It was a chilling autumn night, the kind that hung heavy with the promise of secrets. Mia had just returned from a long shift at work, her heels clicking against the silent pavement as she walked up to her modest apartment. Life had finally begun to take a brighter turn for her. After years of emotional turmoil with her ex, Arav, she had found solace in Aaron, a kind soul who cherished her in ways she had forgotten were possible. But Arav's shadow still loomed. Arav had once been the center of Mia's world, but his compulsive lying and cheating had chipped away at her love. Even after the breakup, she had struggled to rebuild her life, haunted by memories of their toxic relationship. Yet while she suffered in silence, Arav had seemingly moved on with ease, flaunting his carefree lifestyle on social media. His arrogance, however, masked a darker truth. His obsession with Mia had never faded. And when he saw her thriving and deeply in love with someone else, jealousy morphed into a dangerous fixation. Arav's twisted thoughts consumed him. He stalked Mia, noting her routines, her workplace, and even the coffee shop she frequented with Aaron. His failed attempts to contact her only deepened his anger. He couldn't comprehend that Mia was happier without him, and the thought of her moving on filled him with rage. He decided that if he couldn't have her, no one could. The night it happened, Arav waited outside Mia's apartment building. The lights in the surrounding units flickered out one by one as the clock edged closer to midnight. He had spent weeks planning this, waiting for the perfect moment. Disguised in a hoodie and gloves, he crept into her building through a side entrance he knew was rarely locked. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. His warped sense of justice fueled his every step. Mia had fallen asleep almost immediately after coming home, exhausted from her day. She had no idea she was being watched. Arav picked the lock to her apartment with practiced ease, the faint click masked by the hum of her refrigerator. He stepped inside, careful to avoid creaky floorboards. As he approached her bedroom, his breath quickened. There she was, peaceful and unaware. In his mind, this was an act of mercy. With trembling hands, he drew the knife he had brought. He hesitated only for a second before plunging it into her chest. Her eyes snapped open, a look of shock and terror freezing her face as she tried to scream. But Arav didn't stop. The first stab was followed by another and another, until the bedsheets were soaked in blood. By the time he fled, Mia's lifeless body lay crumpled in a pool of crimson, her sanctuary turned into a macabre crime scene. The next morning, Mia's co-workers grew concerned when she didn't show up. Calls went unanswered, and texts were marked as delivered but never read. Aaron, worried sick, rushed to her apartment. When no one answered the door, he alerted the building manager, who let him in. The scene he discovered was straight out of a nightmare. Mia's lifeless body, marred by dozens of stab wounds, lay on the blood-soaked bed. He called the police, his voice breaking with anguish. Detectives arrived shortly after, the apartment sealed off with yellow tape as forensic teams got to work. The brutality of the crime left even the seasoned officers shaken. Lead detective Priya Sharma immediately suspected a crime of passion. The overkill, nearly 30 stab wounds, hinted at intense personal emotion. Interviews with Mia's friends and co-workers soon revealed the history with Arav. Arav became the prime suspect when Aaron recounted his past attempts to contact Mia. Surveillance footage from the apartment building confirmed his presence near the entrance that night. His alibi, claiming he had been home alone, quickly unraveled when police searched his home. In his closet, they found a hoodie stained with blood and a notebook filled with disturbing entries about Mia. One chilling line read, "If I can't have her, no one will." Forensics sealed the case. DNA evidence from the crime scene matched Arav, and the knife used in the murder was found discarded in a nearby dumpster. Cornered by the overwhelming evidence, Arav confessed, showing no remorse. He claimed Mia had betrayed him by moving on and that he had acted out of love. Arav was charged with first-degree murder. During the trial, the courtroom was filled with both Mia's grieving loved ones and the public, horrified by the gruesome details of the case. Aaron's testimony about Mia's resilience and their plans for a future together brought many to tears. In the end, Arav received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But for Mia's friends and family, no sentence could bring back the vibrant young woman whose life had been stolen in an act of unspeakable cruelty. The case became a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked obsession and the lasting scars of toxic relationships.